Hey there, how are you? And welcome to my channel. My name is Ira, and on this channel I like to make video essays talking about different topics such as the wellness industry, football hooliganism, philosophy, true crime, and so on, usually while painting something. In today's video, I will be talking about the allegations against Marilyn Manson as well as the allegations against Johnny Depp. The former I wasn't so familiar with until about a month ago, and the latter I've been incredibly invested in. Arguably too much so. For over a year, I've been down the rabbit hole. I've read most, if not all, publicly available legal documents. I've listened to all of the voice recordings that can be found online, and I've formulated my opinion based on all of the facts that were available to me. Regarding the Depp allegations specifically, I will do my best to do a brief summary, but if you want further knowledge or something is not thoroughly explained, I highly recommend you check out the channels of Incredibly Average for the facts, the voice recordings, and cool visual recreations, as well as the channel of Les from SEC, in which he goes over many of the legal documents and has separate videos for each one of the incidents in Heard's claims with a lot of details. And last but not least, I highly suggest you check out the channel Lost Beyond Pluto for all of the legal aspects. All three channels will be linked in the description box, and all of the sources I used for the Marilyn Manson allegations will be mentioned in the video and will be linked below as well. If so, without any further ado, let's paint an essay.
Evan Rachel Wood and Marilyn Manson began their relationship around 2006 or 7 when she was 18 and he was 36. Their relationship lasted until 2010. In 2018, she began speaking of her experience with domestic violence without yet naming her abuser, who many people began theorizing to be Marilyn Manson. This theory was supported by others who began sharing very similar experiences of abuse at the hands of an unnamed ex, such as Esme Bianco and Ashley Lindsay Morgan, all of whom at some point were in a relationship with Manson. On February 1st, 2021, Evan Rachel Wood made a post on Instagram naming Marilyn Manson as her abuser, and others have since named him as well and began sharing their violent experiences with him. The allegations were received with overall support until, on February 4th, Amber Heard released this tweet, causing many to doubt the credibility of Evan Rachel Wood and other victims who came forward regarding Manson, due to the ever-growing public disbelief in Heard's domestic violence allegations against former husband Johnny Depp. In this video essay, I would like to examine both allegations and explain why, in my opinion, the massive doubt regarding Heard's allegations is justified, while the unnerving, creeping doubt over the allegations made against Manson is completely uncalled for, and their claims should be received with much more credibility. Before I move forward with comparing these allegations, you might ask yourself, how dare I compare the cases of women who have alleged horrific abuse, validating some allegations and condemning those who doubt their experience, while simultaneously doubting the allegations made by another supposed victim, essentially partaking in what I myself condemn? That is a very fair question. Let me then start by stating that it is theoretically possible that the allegations made against Manson are lies, and that it is theoretically possible that the allegations made against Depp are true. I have not witnessed any of these claims with my own eyes, I wasn't there, and there is no way for me to know if anything is true or false and speak to the nature of the allegation with conviction. I believe wholly in allowing victims to speak freely against their abusers, while I also believe in the justice system value of innocent until proven guilty. These two values certainly come in contrast with one another in many cases. This is where we have to turn our attention to facts and evidence and try to match them with the allegations themselves. In this video, I will attempt to show that in one set of allegations, these facts match, while in the other they do not. Secondly, I want to state that the only reason I am comparing these allegations are because Amber Heard recently inserted herself into the Manson allegations with her tweet, which, if I am correct about the Manson allegation being the truth and the Depp allegation being a hoax, is painfully cynical. With this out of the way, let us proceed with the video. Evan Rachel Wood testified in Congress to pass the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill in 2018. Then in 2019, she authored the Phoenix Act, which is a bill seeking to extend the statute of limitations for domestic violence in some criminal cases. In these testimonies, she describes her heartbreaking experience with domestic abuse without yet naming her abuser.
My experience with domestic violence was this: toxic mental, physical, and sexual abuse, which started slow but escalated over time, including threats against my life, severe gaslighting and brainwashing, waking up to the man that claimed to love me raping what he believed to be my unconscious body. In this moment, while I was tied up and being beaten and being told unspeakable things, I truly felt like I could die, not just because my abuser said to me, "I could kill you right now," but because in that moment I felt like I left my body and I was too afraid to run. He would find me. I froze, and it was as if I could see myself from the outside, and for the first time in months, I felt something, utter shame and despair.
She created the hashtag #IamNotOK to allow victims to state how their experiences have traumatized them for years, to highlight the link between domestic abuse and long-term symptoms of PTSD and anxiety. The bill was passed in California in 2019 and became a law in January 2020. Esme Bianco has also testified for the Phoenix Act, detailing her horrific abuse and aims to provide other victims with additional rights and support. Her testimony is very emotional, although she stays quite composed until she addresses her concerns for other victims.
Initially, he was charming, intelligent, funny. He told me I was his soulmate. By the time I was living with him, he controlled every aspect of my life. He had a dress code I was expected to abide by. He controlled what I ate, decided if my friendships were acceptable, and when I called my family, I did so hiding inside a closet. I was not allowed to key to the house, and I would often be locked in the bedroom. He controlled when and if I slept, and I was often violently shaken awake should I go to sleep without permission. In one instance, I was bitten until my body was covered in bruises. On another occasion, cut with a knife during sex. He took photos of my naked, mutilated body and posted them online without my knowledge. I still have these photos, along with photos of my body covered in welts inflicted with a whip. After a diagnosis of PTSD, the symptoms of which I still suffer on a daily basis, I started the incredibly painful process of healing from my trauma. When I finally found the courage 7 years later to seek legal advice, I was told, despite having photographic, video, and written evidence, that it was too late. Nothing could be done. So I live with the daily knowledge that my abuser is still inflicting irreparable damage on other women.
She almost breaks in tears when talking of her fear that other victims will be forced to live her experience and suffer the long-term trauma. As I said, her testimony as a whole is very emotional, but she stays composed throughout her description of her own horrific experience and breaks when talking of what others might be going through. While Evan Rachel Wood and Esme Bianco both acknowledge that they are aware they will not receive justice due to the statute of limitation at the time of their coming out with their experiences, but state that with the changes they seek in this matter, other victims will be allowed more legal rights to fight their cases. Both came forward with their story to benefit others, while it seemed Amber Heard came forward with her story to benefit herself. Whenever Amber Heard speaks of domestic abuse, it seems to be to paint her in a certain image she wants to be seen through. Even in her so-called motivational speaking, which she gets paid for very nicely, mind you, she shines the light on herself versus the phenomenon as a whole.
A few years ago, I, like you, awoke to a world that was starting to catch flame. I arose from my bed one day, a few years into my own private battle, and I smelled the smoke. I had for years walked with tired and weary feet into battle every single day alone, privately, longing for a different kind of world than the one in which I used to live. For before and through my very public, heart-wrenchingly lonely battle for justice, that I, a woman, would never truly see it.
I believe she is trying to convey strength, as if to say, I am powerful, despite of what happened to me. I am woman, hear me roar, kind of sentiment. The reason this feels disingenuous is her only means to convey this type of intensity is through anger. Her hand movement, her facial expressions, her tone, they all convey pure fury to the extent of feeling antagonistic. You could interpret it in the sense that I'm angry because of what I went through, and that is likely what she's trying to evoke in the audience as well, but something about it isn't right. It feels like she's auditioning for the role of a comic villain or a female Saruman giving motivational speech to the orcs before the Battle of Helm's Deep.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand. This night, the land will be stained with the blood of Rohan. To war!
Another example of Heard using this image to gain something is the donation situation. Following her divorce from Depp in 2016, Heard publicly pledged to donate her entire $7 million divorce settlement to charity. This admirable decision was announced after Heard received some criticism over the massive settlement she and her team were seeking from Depp just after 1 year of marriage. After announcing this settlement shall be donated, Depp agreed to the amount and posted the first payment of $100,000 on Heard's behalf to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Heard demanded that Depp must pay her the settlement so that she could donate the money herself, claiming he is using this donation for tax benefits. After receiving the money, she went on several interviews and announced to several media outlets that the entire settlement was donated in full, parroting the notion that this proves she wanted nothing in terms of financial benefit. In an ongoing defamation lawsuit, Depp's team have requested her to provide proof of the donation, which her team went above and beyond several times to request the judge to deny due to privacy reasons and irrelevance. Heard's team's notion was denied by the judge and she was to produce these documents. The trial was recently delayed to 2022, but recently the Children's Hospital correspondence with Heard was released, claiming they have never received any further donations beyond the initial $100,000 donated by Depp in her name and asking her if she is planning to ever fulfill the pledged amount. This correspondence exploded all over the media, and Heard's lawyers released a statement that due to Depp's lawsuit, Heard couldn't fulfill the donation due to her massive legal fees, but that she will fulfill the pledge eventually. There are two problems with this statement. First, Heard received the divorce settlement in full by 2017, and Depp only sued her in 2019, 2 years later. Second, Heard publicly announced to any media outlet willing to give her publicity that the entire amount was already donated. Quietly, mind you, she didn't even want the publicity, bless her heart. Try to pay attention to her facial expressions in this next clip.
There were all kinds of accusations flying your way when you said all this, and then there was a divorce settlement, you got $7 million. People were saying this is all about the money, but then you did something that twisted that whole argument. What did you do with that money?
$7 million in total was donated to, I split it between the ACLU and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
Well, more power to you, because that's something that I've never heard of.
I wanted nothing.
So here we hear her claim were donated in full, not partially donated, not sort of donated, not maybe will be donated, was donated in full, smirkingly adding, she wanted nothing. Okay, so she wanted some publicity and she's apparently very bad at accounting. But at least she's an ally, right? I've mentioned the statement Amber Heard made on Twitter when Evan Rachel Wood finally named Manson as her abuser. This statement is also entirely self-serving. There isn't a need to overanalyze this tweet to notice her choice in writing, Evan and I aren't the first to raise our hands. Firstly, obviously nobody thinks that they are the first in terms of abuse allegations, so I genuinely have no idea what purpose the sentence has other than finding a way to insert the word I and insert herself into the situation. It should be mentioned that by this point, mainstream media has picked up on Heard lying about donating the divorce settlement, and even more people, in the mainstream media included, began doubting Heard's story altogether. In this time, a lot of support was shown to Evan Rachel Wood and others who have made similar allegations against Manson. In my opinion, this is Heard trying to regain some credibility after her donation scandal by inserting herself into another woman's traumatic allegations, which until this point had been received with overall support. Not only did this brazen insertion not give Heard the validation she sought, she actually ended up causing many to call Evan Rachel Wood a liar and compare her to Amber Heard. She chose to insert herself to gain something, completely damaging the credibility of who, in my opinion, is a real actual victim of abuse. Had her intentions been pure, she would have known not to involve herself in this due to the possibility that her incredibility might directly affect another woman's struggle for justice. Even if, hypothetically, Heard's claims are not a hoax, a genuine, good person would have not chosen to do something that realistically could risk the reputation of another victim. Now, I am no expert in body language, and the analysis of nonverbal cues in general is by no means an accurate science. There are many factors that must be weighed in to make any assumption on the meaning behind our expressions, and there is no one-size-fits-all regarding body language interpretation. That being said, we are intuitive and perceptive beings. Often we can empathize with the mannerism of another human, and we can also become uncomfortable by them. Communicating with someone or watching them communicate will make us feel a certain type of way, because of signals our brain interprets to gain further information. There is a lot of discomfort in Evan Rachel Wood's testimony to Congress. Her body makes little movements that show anxiety and stress, which, despite of making the viewer uncomfortable due to our ability to emphasize with her anxiety in this moment, it also feels very natural. It doesn't feel as if her anxiety is manufactured to appear more truthful. She sounds emotional in an unintentional way, as if she's trying her best to remain as composed as possible. The same goes for Esme Bianco. She's very emotional in her testimony, and it evokes emotion in the viewer due to how authentic and real it feels. She too remains very composed despite of being visibly emotional, up until the point of speaking about other victims of her abuser and the injustice other victims have to face with the statute of limitations at the time. If we look at Amber Heard's body language during her testimony, I can't say that I personally get the same feeling.
He grabs my head, takes a fistful of my hair and says, I hit your eye, huh? Let me see your eye. Let me see your eye. What if I pull your hair back? And he yanks my head back, and he's, I don't know, smacking my face or moving my face, and he's got me by the hair, and it's hard to describe. It's like yanking me from side to side with my hair.
Are you standing up at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
She also seems uncomfortable, but not in the same way. Her anxious movements seem inauthentic and inconsistent. Her voice alludes to being on the verge of tears, but no tears come out, and it sounds to me personally like she's acting, rather unsuccessfully, if I might be so unkind to add. The parts where she gets overly emotional feel like overacting, rather than trying to control emotions that burst out organically due to the traumatic nature of the words she speaks. While Manson, to the day of recording this, isn't officially charged and so there isn't official evidence to go over, it seems that Manson himself provides proof, or at least made several statements which sustain some of the allegations against him in several interviews over the years and even in his autobiography. Reviewing these statements post facto revealed the disturbing yet very real possibility that Manson had been hiding in plain sight. It seems Manson was hiding behind the theatrical, shock value persona while confirming some of the allegations made against him in his music and even interviews, such as one talking about his song I Want to Kill You Like They Do in the Movies, in which he proclaims his fantasies in smashing the skull of his ex in with a sledgehammer. That ex is commonly believed to be Evan Rachel Wood, which is supported by the claim that he hired a lookalike to take part in the music video, in which he acts out violent sex acts on said lookalike, and some seconds flash images of what seems to be acting out murder by bludgeoning her. In several interviews, he is referring to locking girlfriends in the naughty girlfriend room or bad girl room or whatever the fuck, jokingly adding that he needs to make sure not to leave them in for too long, otherwise they get upset. Ha ha ha, abuse is choice comedy. He talks of being physically abusive towards his mother in his autobiography, where he writes, quote, I hit her, spit on her, and tried to choke her. She never retaliated, she just cried, and I never felt sorry for her. End quote. He's made statements in interviews that suggest to him threatening people with violence and his associations with crime organizations. Admittedly, this is not something I necessarily want to admit, but making statements such as these publicly is rather genius, as they are attributed to the persona, Marilyn Manson, the shock rock star, affiliated with dangerous people, not ashamed of assaulting his own mother, and in possession of a punitive sex dungeon where he likes to lock his girlfriends. There is an obvious play on reality versus fiction, man versus artist, to the point that we can take these statements seriously without believing that they are true. I'm sure he's made several exaggerated or even false claims via his persona, and some of the statements are very much real, but the blurring of the line makes it all feel like theatrics. The strange thing, however, is the corroboration between the claims against him and the statements that he's publicly made. For example, before naming Manson, Evan Rachel Wood claimed in her 2019 testimony for the Phoenix Act that her abuser would call her repeatedly and threaten to kill himself if she didn't take him back.
I mustered the courage to leave several times, but he would call my house incessantly and threaten to kill himself.
Which matches a statement Manson made regarding Wood in an interview in 2009 to Spin, where he discusses his song Into the Fire. Quote, and every time I called her that day, I called 158 times. I took a razor blade and I cut myself on the face or on my hands. This was intentional, this was a scarification, and this was like a tattoo. I wanted to show her the pain she put me through. It was like, I want you to physically see what you've done. End quote. In this video clip, Wood is claiming her abuser would threaten her and others by his affiliation to bad people.
Witnessed my abuser threatening people with force or legal action if he worried they would expose him. He bragged about being able to have people killed because he was allegedly friends with multiple gangs, and I watched him illegally collect data on people that he could use as blackmail.
Something Manson himself said in an interview to Enemy.
A lot of people think it's political, but I think it was more about people saying things that they think they can get away with. And me being someone who is affiliated, let's not say affiliated, someone who is friendly with very dangerous people.
In regards to Heard, from providing photographic evidence of property damage to different incidents, such as a damaged door, Heard claimed to belong to an incident that took place in a property that doesn't nor never had a door that looks like the one Heard took a picture of, to describing great property damage, such as shattered glass everywhere from Depp swinging and breaking wine bottles on walls and cabinets, but then taking picture of a small wine stain in an otherwise tidy hallway, to stories of horrific abuse that includes being dragged naked across shattered glass, cutting her everywhere, while she herself provided this photo that supposedly shows her scars from enduring this abuse. Several people had theorized that these marks seem self-inflicted due to its positioning on her left arm alone and all being consistent with being cut in one angle and direction. Furthermore, it seems bizarre that if one is dragged naked across broken glass repeatedly, they are only injured with a few scratches on only one small part of their body. Heard claimed to have attempted to stand up during this abuse, causing her palms and bottom of her feet to be cut by the glass. It would make much more sense to provide pictures of these cuts, which undoubtedly would have left scars that are much worse than these, due to her trying to support the entirety of her body weight on broken glass with her hands and feet. Heard is seen in a talk show making facial expressions inconsistent with her claims of suffering grave injuries to her nose and lip the night before, on a separate incident. Even if makeup could hide the marks left by such violence, moving her facial muscles in this way after having your lip and nose broken several hours prior wouldn't be possible, especially with such ease. There are also claims made by Heard that Depp was extremely controlling to the point of not allowing her to drive herself, always forcing her to be driven by members of his staff to know where she goes at all times, while there is documentation of a car Depp rented under Heard's name, as well as an insurance policy under her name, meaning only she could drive the car. A very strange thing to do if she is the only person Depp didn't want to drive. Moreover, there is far more evidence to suggest that Heard was the abuser in that relationship, and much like with Manson, plenty of the proof comes directly from the horse's mouth. I've mentioned the voice recordings that were leaked. Listening to them show that Heard is definitely not afraid around Depp, nor is she hesitant to criticize him out of fear from his reaction, as she herself claimed in the press and in court.
Got anything. You can't run away every fight. You can't. It's easy. It's not brave. It's not strong. You're running away, and then you make me be the bigger person every single time and come to you and knock on the door and come to this house and say, hey, we're married. It's supposed to be sacred. Calm down. Calm down.
I made you.
Yes, by default. If you're never the one to do it, one of us is, and I'm the one to do it every time. It means I'm the bigger person every time. It means I have to be the strong one. It means every time I have to fight for our relationship, and you get to be not. You get to be lazy. You get to be cowardly. No.
I don't want to, because I don't want to fucking fight.
But it doesn't have to be one. It's not like I'm saying, hey, choose fight.
You just said I get mad, I'm going to scream.
No, I didn't say that's always the case. I said, yeah, I'm mad. It happens. It happens.
Yes, I know. It happens often.
If you think I'm some fucking tyrant or bully, then don't fucking be with me. But don't sit here and insult me like I'm the fuck up because I have the
but you're
audacity
the one
to get
saying
mad.
that I'm the tyrant and the bully and at the same time the guy that runs away and
you run away every single fight.
I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
That's
whatever the
different.
fucking else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
No, you're trying to justify how you don't or do come to the door
No,
based
I'm
on whether I throw pots and pans. It's irrelevant.
No, I'm justifying how you seem to think that there's this cowardice in me that runs away and I don't fight for you.
And you're justifying that by saying I throw pots and pans? Okay.
Hit
you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, even a lot of fights have been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a closed fist.
You get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
Because you start physical fights?
You're such a baby! Grow the fuck up,
Because you start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable. Every single time. What's your excuse? When there's not a physical fight, then what's the excuse there? You're still being admirable, right? Just by running away? You know how many times I've chased you out of the elevator in the hall? Sure.
If things get physical, we have to separate.
No.
We have to be apart from one another. There can be no physical violence.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I fucking sometimes get so mad I lose it.
The only violence that is brought up in their conversation is the violence at the hands of Heard herself, which she herself says she can't control and can't promise not to repeat in the future. And the main complaint she has for Depp is that he runs away from every fight and she has to chase him into corridors, hotels, and elevators. Since when does an abuser try to get out of a situation before their so-called victim becomes too violent with them? Since when does a victim get upset that their abuser doesn't stay and fight them? Evan Rachel Wood's experience with Manson is corroborated with other former partners of his, such as Ashley Lindsay Morgan and Esme Bianco, with several disturbing similarities, such as being forced to change their appearance, isolating them from their friends and family, to being made to starve, being sleep-deprived, locked in a room for days as a punitive measure, unconsented mutilation during sexual intercourse, and so on.
He broke me down through means of starvation, sleep deprivation, and threats against my life, sometimes with deadly weapons, which would result in me having severe panic attacks where I was unable to breathe or stop shaking. Sometimes he would not allow me to sleep until I participated in acts of fear, pain, torture, and humiliation, which I felt powerless to stop. In some of these tapes, which he also videotaped, in some of these tapes, he can be heard threatening to kill me, threatening my friends, or threatening to kill members of my family. He also threatened to leak parts of the footage or photographs he had taken as a way to keep me quiet. He cornered me in our bedroom and asked me to kneel while he tied me up by my hands and feet. Once I was restrained, he beat me and shocked sensitive parts of my body with a torture device called a violet wand. To him, it was a way for me to prove my loyalty.
On one occasion, after 4 days of no sleep, he became very angry with me. He started smashing holes in the walls with an axe, and as I tried to calm him down, he began to chase after me with the weapon. I was a prisoner in his hell, and yet I thought I had done something to deserve this, so I just tried harder to please him.
Many who doubt Wood's allegations, and those of other former partners that come forward with their experience with Manson, point to the fact that Manson's ex-wife, Dita Von Teese, supports Manson and claims to never have suffered any abuse from him. This is not true, as while Dita never openly gave details to any abusive treatment she might have suffered from Manson, she had alluded in several interviews to the fact that it was due to abusive treatment that made her divorce him. Another former partner Manson and his fans use as a shield regarding the allegations against him is Rose McGowan, who Manson claims to still have a good relationship with even after parting ways as romantic partners. Which apparently proves he's never abused anyone, I suppose. In reality, McGowan posted a message she sent to Manson after he made the statement about their friendship to rebuttal claims of abuse, tagging Evan Rachel Wood in the post. This was before Manson was named by Evan Rachel Wood or the other victims. Since Manson was named, McGowan released the following statement to Twitter. Former partners aside, former employees came forward in support of the accusations, such as his former personal assistant, Dan Cleary, another former assistant named Ashley Walters, and several other members of his staff or inner circle that spoke out and requested to be called by a pseudonym out of fear of Manson. All of them corroborate the victim's allegations and claim to have witnessed the bruises as well as acts of emotional and psychological abuse from Manson. For instance, one of the unnamed members of an inner circle talks of the time Bianco stayed at Manson's house and claimed Manson would play her sex scene from Game of Thrones on a projector over and over again to his guests, while Bianco was present as well, saying things like, "That's my girlfriend, she's a whore, look, her tits are out." Ashley Walters corroborates the story as well, adding that Manson would lift up Bianco's skirt and smack her already bruised backside in front of everyone. An incident Walters allegedly caught on camera and provided as evidence footage not available to the public. Now, it is important to mention that it is likely that an abuser targets some partners or individuals while not showing the same treatment to others. If some partners claim to never have suffered abuse at the hands of a person who has allegations made against them, it doesn't mean that the allegations are automatically invalid. That being said, Amber Heard seems to be the only person to have alleged abusive treatment from Depp. There is absolutely no one else corroborating her story. None of Depp's former partners, former or current employees, friends, or anyone who knew the couple aside from Heard's own friends, whose testimonies are just as inconsistent as Heard's. Is it possible for an abuser to only target one person while being a complete saint to everyone else in their life? Yes, I suppose so. However, it is still somewhat strange that the only people corroborating Heard's allegations are her close friends, and even then their testimonies are all over the place in terms of details that change with evidence that comes out to negate their narrative. Even more conspicuous is those friends' attempts to distance themselves from the situation and dodge subpoenas with the current ongoing Virginia trial, after being so involved with it in the former UK trial, releasing many statements via social media that they witnessed certain events the evidence later shown them not to even be present in. All of their testimonies can easily be and have been picked apart to show ever-growing holes in the plot, and it is no surprise they are indeed trying to backtrack on their involvement, since if they are found to be lying, they would face serious perjury charges. Their current attempts to distance themselves and not take part in this current Virginia trial hints to their understanding that the risk of perjury is becoming more realistic as time goes by, and more evidence of Heard's abuse and deception are revealed. Moreover, several people, including Heard's and Depp's former employees, claim to have witnessed abusive behavior from Amber Heard towards Depp, not the other way around, or have made statements to have seen Heard without makeup on the same or the following days in which she alleged severe abuse from Depp, and reports injuries that would have been extremely visible, possibly also with heavy makeup. Many employees of the apartment building Heard and Depp were living in during their relationship have given statements that describe their interactions with Heard on these dates in which she supposedly suffered horrific violence. Yet these people claim that they never saw any marks or bruises on Heard, who would wear her face fresh and makeup-free in her daily life, which makes it all the more suspect. Heard's own employees claim to never have seen her with any marks or bruises on or near any of the dates she claimed to have been abused on, including her makeup artist, stylist, and home decorator, all of whom would see Heard fresh-faced. There are also text messages sent to Depp from Heard's parents following their separation in 2016 that show sentiments of apologizing on behalf of their daughter and hoping they could reconcile as they love Depp as a son, something no parent would say to the alleged abuser of their child. Moreover, in these messages, they suggest the domestic violence angle was a legal maneuver on behalf of Heard's team, because otherwise she would lose the penthouse, to which Depp responded that he made it very clear to Heard that she could stay in his penthouse for as long as she needed, and there is absolutely nothing to suggest she had reason to fear eviction. At this point, both cases consist of allegations. Neither Manson nor Depp have been convicted in court, and both remain innocent until proven otherwise. The difference that is hopefully illustrated in this essay is that Evan Rachel Wood and the other women who came forward with their experience and named Marilyn Manson as their abuser give us no reason to doubt their story. There aren't inconsistencies as far as I know, and their stories corroborate one another. When it comes to Amber Heard's allegations, we have every reason to doubt her narrative. There are several aspects that were proved to be false within her stories, which led her to change details of her report several times to make sense each time new damning evidence against her was brought to light. There is far more evidence to instead illustrate Amber Heard as the abuser and corroborate Depp's narrative. Furthermore, the women who alleged abuse against Manson seem to have done so in aims to provide more legal grounds for other victims to come forward and receive justice. Amber Heard has done nothing for the cause or other victims unless it directly benefited her first and foremost. For example, her motivational speaking, which benefit her both monetarily and in terms of her image, as well as the donations she never provided but very happily declared several times in the media. The Me Too and Time's Up movements rose to eliminate the stigma attached to victims coming forward with their stories of abuse, especially against individuals who are more powerful and prominent. Amber Heard, in my opinion, hijacked the momentum behind these movements to benefit herself, while simultaneously stunting the credibility of victims seeking justice and awareness. In this way, she has killed and also taken possession. Unfortunately, there will always be cases of individuals making false allegations for different reasons which they believe would benefit them. This is not only in regards to sexual or domestic abuse, but virtually any claim that could lead to clout for the accuser, damaged reputation for the accused, or both. From false accusations of robbery with the aims of benefiting from insurance fraud, to falsely alleging hate crimes for clout like in the case of Jussie Smollett, some people genuinely have no limits as to what they would do to get what they want. This doesn't mean that there are no real robberies and that racism and hate crimes are figments of people's imagination. In the same way, the fact that there are some people who are morally corrupt to the extent to falsely claim to have suffered different kinds of abuse at the hands of someone who is actually innocent of these crimes doesn't mean these crimes aren't ever committed and that all the people who want to seek justice for what happened to them are clout-seeking liars. Assuming all allegations are false just because a few are is so incredibly stupid and damaging. However, the existence of false allegations mean that the claims must be closely examined and analyzed, in the sense that we must look at the evidence. In the two cases I presented, I believe the evidence speaks for itself, and I simply hope that the real victims in these cases will receive the justice they deserve.
As of today, the LA County Sheriff's Department has opened an investigation into Marilyn Manson in regards to domestic abuse allegations in the years between 2009 and 2011. Also, as a result of Evan Rachel Wood and Esme Bianco naming Marilyn Manson as their accuser, Manson had been dropped by his music label, and Manson recently released a statement in which he is denying all of the allegations against him. Things for Amber Heard aren't looking too well either, as the long rumors of her being fired from the new Aquaman 2 movie that have been circulating for a while are said by some media outlet to be a realistic possibility since her donation scandal. In addition to that, the petition to have her removed from the film on change.org has reached almost 2 million signatures. Heard's team released a statement saying all of those signatures are just Russian bots. I have signed it myself, and although I am Russian, I am not a bot, at least to my knowledge. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I hope that you found the topic interesting and illuminating. I hope that you enjoyed the painting process of this piece. This piece features the incredibly talented dancer Misty Copeland. I do want to add that Misty is in no way connected to any of the topics addressed in this video. I simply wanted to paint a picture of her that I thought was extremely beautiful. Anyway, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoy this type of content. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.